So here I am again, back at Final Fantasy X. What a game. In my last video I'd gone and captured 10 of every type of monster in the game so as to unlock all the rewards and super bosses at the monster arena, and ultimately to be able to face up with Nemesis, one of the game's toughest bosses. However, because I'm a big boob, I forgot that before Nemesis unlocks you actually have to fight and beat every single unlocked monster arena creation, of which there are 34. Ouch. These 34 creations are divided into 3 categories at the arena. There's the area creations, which are by far the easiest category, then the species creations, which tend to be significantly harder, then the original creations, which are the hardest of them all. Well, for this video I'm going to be tackling all the area creations first. These are monsters which are unlocked after capturing at least one of each type of monster from a particular area. They're the easiest monsters to unlock, and so appropriately they're the easiest ones to beat. To provide a brief explanation as to what these monsters are actually all about, they're essentially just clones of regular enemies you find out in the world. Although the original creations are at least reskinned models of existing enemies or bosses, the area and species creations weren't even given reskins, which is a bit of a shame. Why can't you be blue? One aspect of these enemies which certainly has been tweaked, however, is their stats. For a start, nearly every area creation monster has around 500,000 HP. Their other stats like strength, defense, magic, agility, etc. are massively buffed up too, and every monster here has also been given more dangerous versions of their regular attacks. Remember 1000 needles? Yeah, try 10,000 needles. It's literally 10 times more deadly, and that's maths. So, the main point I'm trying to put across here is that although the area creations are the easiest of the 3 categories of monster here, they're still way harder and more buff than any regular enemy or boss, and thus provide a good bit of sport, a good challenge if you will. Now, although strategy is massively important for success in FF10, it's also a fact that you can brute force your way through most challenges by simply grinding for stats. But what fun is that? Well, it can be kinda fun, actually. But I didn't want to do that here, and so I did not do any extra grinding before taking on any monsters here. The 3 characters I'm using for this are Tidus, Riku and Auron. Yeah, I know Waka tends to be the most popular choice when people are taking on tough enemies and super bosses because of how overpowered his attack reels are. I just can't bring myself to spend God knows how many hours grinding away at Blitzball for the Jupiter Sigil. I just can't go through that again. I like Tidus because Blitz Ace is kinda the next best thing after attack reels and isn't as much of a pain in the arse to unlock, although admittedly I still haven't unlocked it here. And Riku is fantastic because of how powerful and vital Mix is. Combinations like Hyper Mighty G and Ultra Null are too effective to not take advantage of. Lastly, I brought Auron along because 1, he's a cool fucking character, and 2, his Banishing Blade Overdrive is fantastic. Although its damage is great, it also has an additional effect of causing full break to enemies, even when they might normally be immune to full break. Now this doesn't work out all the time, but when it does, it can be a lifesaver. Before I could get stuck right into it though, I had some preliminary shit to take care of, because if I was going to be taking on any big badass monsters, then I was going to need some big badass weapons. Although I picked up some weapons, crests and sigils for all characters along the way, I still needed the Calabolg and Sun Sigil, the Masamune and the Mercury Sigil. The Masamune was really easy to get because I'd already picked up the rusty sword near the sunken cave, and so all I had to do here was visit the hidden statue of Lord Mayhem to transform it into Auron's ultimate weapon, the Masamune. Next up was Tidus' celestial weapon, the Calabolg, and the Sun Sigil needed to power it up fully. Anyone who's played this game and obtained these things knows exactly what's coming next. It's the Chocobo Trainer minigames. The first 3 really aren't too bad at all, to be honest. You just need to control this big dumb bird and try not to get hit by the flying balls. The 4th and final challenge is the real pisser though. Catch your Chocobo. Here you've got to beat the trainer in a race while running through as many balloons as possible, whilst also dodging the birds flying right at your, well, bird. For every balloon you collect, 3 seconds are deducted from your final time, and for every bird you get hit by, 3 seconds are added on to your final time, as well as the time wasted when you actually get hit. The challenge can be a bit shitty, because you can get screwed by RNG and have really crappy balloon placements, and also the chocobo sometimes just doesn't control well and won't turn when you want it to, or sometimes it'll turn when you don't want it to. All in all though, it's not too difficult to beat the trainer. However, if you want the Sun Sigil, you don't just need to beat the trainer, you also need to achieve a final time of 0 seconds. Yes, it is possible, it's just a pain in the arse. A lot of people absolutely hate this challenge, but I actually don't mind it too much and managed to get it on my 5th attempt, which I was both surprised and happy with. After nailing the challenge, we can now ride to the north of the Camlands and grab the Calabog. I know exactly where I'm going. Yeah, it's just over here. Ah, here we go. It's Tidus's ultimate weapon, the Calabog. Last but not least, I needed the Mercury Sigil for Riku, and as is the case for all sigils, it's a bit of a damn trial to get it. Because we've got to fly over to Beacon Desert and do the whole Cactuar village side quest. We go over to the Cactuar stone overlooking the village, which is currently inaccessible due to a sandstorm, and upon interacting with it, we get hints, often excessively vague, and have to go hunting for Cactuars. Upon finding them, we've got to go through a fun and dumb game of red light, green light, and sneak up on the green menace without it noticing you move. So cute. And then after catching it, we brutally slaughter the Cactuar, steal its soul, and then return it back to the Cactuar stone. After doing this 8 more times, the sandstorm abates and we can collect our prize, the Mercury Sigil. I hope it was worth it. I then travel over to Macalania Woods and complete the crystal rituals and get myself a sparkling new set of celestial weapons. These are fantastic and have some super powerful passive abilities, the most important of which is break damage limit, allowing Tidus, Auron and Riku to deal over 9,999 damage, which, as you can imagine, when fighting enemies with high defense and over 500,000 HP, is rather important. As for my armour, I bought some Tetra equipment with 4 free slots for all 3 of my guys and put a few things on there. By no means did I optimise, I just slapped some powerful shit on the armour like Ribbon, Auto Phoenix and Auto Haste. When I tackle harder monsters in the future, then I'll really start thinking hard about optimal armour setups. As you can see, my stats are generally fine but nothing special, except for Riku, whose stats are just flat out shit. Yes, I could have grinded for a bit to improve her stats, but as I said, I did not want to do that. Her agility is very good at least, and that will certainly come in handy as I'll be using her for more of a support role, and for her fantastic mix overdrive. And so finally, that was all the prep done. My dudes were certainly no powerhouses, but they were respectable enough, and without any real plan or strategy, I felt ready to take on the first monster, the Stratio Avis. This big bird is unlocked for doing the area conquest over at Besaid. Its appearance and mechanics are pretty much identical to the zoo enemy found over at Beacon, except way stronger. It's got some regular physical attacks that hit hard, but as luck would have it, I never got hit by a single attack. If you let it go for too long while it's flying, it will hit you with a powerful delay attack called Peen of the Heavens. But to my mild surprise, I absolutely nailed this Dark Ostrich. Although it has a respectable HP pool at 320,000, its agility and defense really aren't up to much, and so I was just able to wail on it until it dropped down to the ground, allowing me to deliver the finishing touches with a nice slice and dice from my boy Tidus. An easy and encouraging start to the challenge, and hey, I even got myself a couple of Dark Matters for beating it with an overkill. Next up was the Malboro Menace, unlocked for the area conquest for Kilika. Now, as we all know, Malboros are indeed a huge menace to Final Fantasy players worldwide, and always have been, and that's because of bad breath. But never mind bad breath, how about putrid breath? Because Auron's celestial weapon has the first attack ability, he gets the first turn. However, straight after that, we are ambushed with a putrid breath. Disgusting. Now normally, the fight would pretty much be done here, and I'd be screwed as our confused characters killed each other. But not this time, because I'd customised ribbon onto Riku's armour using the 99 Dark Matters awarded to us for unlocking the Ultima Buster enemy. Thus, although Tidus and Auron got utterly wrecked by the attack, Riku only took a wee bit of damage. This allowed me to cure up Tidus with a remedy and then do the same for Auron, and then I was good to go. Now a quirk with celestial weapons is that they have hidden damage modifiers that determine their damage output. So for Tidus, he'll do more damage if he's at or near full HP, but do much reduced damage if he's at lower HP. And so you'll often see me making efforts to keep him healed up so as to make sure he's operating at his full offensive capabilities. Auron, on the other hand, is actually the reverse of this and will do way more damage when he's at lower HP levels and less when he's at full HP. This can be a bit annoying, but it can also be a huge boon when you attack while near death and deal massive damage. I imagine Riku's celestial weapon, the God Hand, also has a similar hidden modifier, but I don't actually know. It may or may not. Our strength stat is shit right now anyway, so it's not really important at the moment. But back to the massive monster in front of me. It did not give me too much trouble. Although it has a few different possible attacks, all it did was use Putrid Breath 3 times repeatedly, which I was easily able to deal with thanks to Riku. Although the Marlborough Menace actually has 640,000 HP, it didn't take long to put down due to having no counter attack, having poor agility and having poor defense, so that's another one down. The next challenger was the Kotos, unlocked for the area conquest at Mihen High Road. Our 4-armed friend here sports 440,000 HP, and he is not shy about using those extra limbs. This is the first monster we faced that can actually do some scary damage due to his high strength stat. Kotos' gimmick is his counter attack. You can actually see him raise his hands at the start of the fight, entering into his counter stance. So anytime anyone attacks, they'll get a proper wallop in return, doing a ton of damage and killing whoever is unlucky enough to be on the receiving end, unless they have Protect, which, as it just so happens, Tidus does. Thus, although Tidus has less max HP than Auron, he was still easily able to survive this monster's attacks. This fight was kinda just a war of attrition, to be honest. Although the enemy was strong, I was able to instantly revive my characters anytime a counter hit killed them, and Auron in particular was super useful because of his Auto Phoenix ability on his armour. This ability means he'll automatically use a Phoenix down on any ally knocked out by an enemy without using up a turn. Things did actually get a bit dicey towards the end when both Tidus and Auron got knocked down, but thankfully because of Riku's high agility, I had plenty of time to use a Mega Phoenix and finish off Mr. Purple. Job done. Next up is the Kuro Regina. Very difficult for me to pronounce that with my Scottish accent, by the way. This kitty cat is unlocked for the area conquest at Mushroom Rock Road. The tricks used by this monster revolve around status ailments and instant death. It used the Chaos attack on Tidus, causing Confuse, Curse and Doom. I was able to fix this right up by Riku straight after with a remedy. Well, apart from the Doom part, which as far as I know can't actually be cured. So after 5 turns, Tidus bit the dust. Only to be instantly revived by Big Sexy Auron. The only other attack that Whiskers here managed to get off, on me, was Hyper Blaster, which causes instant death. But again, it was not an issue due to it only affecting one character. It doesn't really matter how powerful an enemy attack is. If it only nails one party member, and if the enemy's agility isn't too high, it will rarely pose much of a problem. Agility is extremely important in this game, and if you get it high enough, some enemies might only be allowed 1 turn for every 10 turns your own characters get. This also applies to some of the enemies though, especially the Dark Aeons. I'm looking at you, Dark Shiva. But yeah, Kuro Regina, not too tough. Next. Aha! Now we have the Jormungand, unlocked for doing the area conquest at Josie High Road. Although it has a decent HP pool at nearly 500,000, I'd assumed that it wouldn't give me too much bother, but this dude actually caused me my first death. The first attack it used, Cold Stare, was easy to deal with. It just does a bit of damage and turned someone to stone, easily healed and easily cured. Then I was hit by Space-Time Vorpal, which levelled everyone for very high magic damage, leading to my first failure. My solution for this, my second attempt, was just to make sure everyone had Shell cast on them to negate a large portion of the magic damage. But it turned out this wasn't even necessary, because it didn't use Space-Time Vorpal the second time round. Oh well, another one doth bite the dust. Monster number 6 was the Cactuar King, unlocked for the area conquest at the Thunder Plains. Like Kotos, this enemy also has a powerful counter-attack, 10,000 needles, which predictably does 10,000 damage per attack, killing anyone who receives the needles. I decided to try out a new mix combination for this fight, the Miracle Drink, which I made by combining an ether with a designer wallet, making it so that every one of my attacks was guaranteed to be a critical. Turns out such measures were not even necessary, because this dude only has 100,000 HP, which at this point in the game is really nothing. And so all it took to bring down His Royal Highness, the Cactuar King, was an overdrive from Tidus and a regular attack from Orin. Easy. The next arena creation was the Espada, unlocked for doing the area conquest for Macalania. This thing doesn't have a massive HP pool either, coming in at just over 250,000, but it does also employ counterattacks, a feature which will continue to become more common with the remaining monster arena creations. Anytime someone hits the Espada, it'll follow up with the Hades Claw, causing instant death. Again though, with Orin having the Auto Phoenix ability, this isn't much of an issue. All it really does is slow down the fight. The Espada does start off with Auto Regen 2, but this only really heals it for a few thousand HP per turn, so no big deal. Funnily enough, the Espada's counterattack is way more dangerous than its regular attack, Blade Shiver, which barely left a scratch on Orin here. Nothing much to see with this enemy, easy pickings. Next up, we have one of the largest enemies in the whole game, second only to Sin. It's the Abyss Worm, unlocked for the area conquest at Beacon Desert. Honestly, I was expecting this thing to be quite a challenge due to how intimidating it looked, but it was kind of a pushover, largely due to its terrible agility, defence, and the fact that I had no counter-attack to punish me. Despite having a respectable HP pool at around 500,000, I was just able to wail on it, with increased damage output thanks to a Miracle Drink from Riku. It did swallow Riku at one point, rude, and then knock her out upon regurgitation, but due to being such a slow single target attack, it just wasn't dangerous. For sure this is one of the easier monster arena creations, but hey, it still looks really cool. And now we have the Chimera Geist. This thing's kinda special in that it's the first arena creation anyone unlocks, being a reward for capturing at least one of everything in the Calm Lands. Due to it being such an early creation, it's actually really easy, only having 120,000 HP. I'd love to spit out some interesting commentary about the Chimera Geist, but I did not even get a single attack out before I beat it, so nothing much to say really. It's probably the single easiest creation enemy here, and easily beatable even with fairly poor stats. Now monster number 10 is something far more noteworthy, the Dawn Tonberry, unlocked after capturing one of everything down at the Cavern of the Stolen Faith. Pretty standard HP pool for an area creation, coming in at 480,000, as well as decent strength and agility, but what this enemy is known for is its special counter-attack, Karma. So, whenever the Dawn Tonberry is attacked, it'll use Karma on the attacker, with the damage of the attack being determined by the number of enemies that party member has killed throughout the whole playthrough, multiplied by 100. Well, at this point in the game, most players will have killed a crap load of monsters, and indeed, so have I, resulting in over 70,000 damage per attack. To be honest though, the damage is kind of irrelevant. Regardless of how much it does, a party member kill is a party member kill, and our members can be easily and quickly revived. The Dawn Tonberry does ominously trudge forward throughout the battle, and when it gets close enough it does tend to stab, causing massive damage, but it's nothing we can't deal with, especially with Orin's Auto Phoenix. As with a lot of enemies at the monster arena, it's another war of attrition. It's never really in doubt that we'll win, it just takes a bit of back and forth to get there. Aha! So now we're down to the final 3 monsters, and then the area creations will have been well and truly vanquished. Third from last is the mighty Kotobo Pass, unlocked for completing the area conquest on Mount Gagazet. Again, around about 500,000 HP, but although it has a low defense stat at only 33, it has armour, drastically reducing the damage of our attacks. This was only an issue for the first minute or so though, because we have Orin's Banishing Blade, dealing massive damage and breaking the Kotobo Pass's armour for the remainder of the fight. After this initial barrier to victory, it was mostly plain sailing from here on. The monster's pop fly attack caused a lot of physical damage, but the only person really vulnerable to it was Riku with her rubbish HP and low defense. One thing I was certainly wary of here was what would happen after I killed the Kotobo Pass, because I knew that Behemoth Kings always end a fight with a powerful meteor attack after being killed, so I was expecting something similar here. Sure enough, after the killing blow, I got hit with the most powerful black magic in the game, Ultima. Honestly, I was totally expecting to die here, but was shocked as hell to see that Orin actually survived it, giving me a nice surprise victory. Now we're on to the penultimate monster. It's the Abaddon, unlocked after capturing one of every monster inside Sin. I started this fight off with a miracle drink for guaranteed crits, but even with the crits I was doing some pretty shitty damage due to the Abaddon's very high defense stat. This monster had some powerful magic up its sleeve, but due to its attacks mainly being single target, I was not too concerned, and so on the battle went. It did something called Mana Focus halfway through though, which I believe essentially serves as a wind up for its ultimate attack, Emblem of the Cosmos. God damn, what a cool name for an attack. What I did not find cool was that it totally wiped me out, dealing damage in excess of everyone's max HP, resulting in my second Monster Arena death. But I jumped straight back in and gave it another go, this time pulling out the big guns. That's right, Hyper Mighty G. This mixed combination is one of the most important abilities in the game, granting the whole party Shell, Protect, Haste, Regen, and most importantly, Auto Life. Stupidly powerful ability, but hey, it's there, so I'm going to use it. With Hyper Mighty G having been used, I was now confident that my guys could take anything thrown at me, and indeed they could. Abaddon used Emblem of the Cosmos again, but thanks to Shell, I could tank it, and even if it had killed everyone, Auto Life would bring them straight back. Thanks to the Abaddon's massive defense, this was my longest battle so far, but after a good 5 minutes, I finally took the monster down. It is time for the final and arguably most powerful area creation monster, the Vorban, unlocked for capturing one of every monster at the Omega Ruins. God damn, I've always loved this enemy design. I mean, what the hell even is it? Anyway, this fight ended up being pretty damn tough because this thing has a lot of defense as well as armor, and unfortunately, despite trying to use Banishing Blade and Armor Break, I could not break its armor, resulting in me doing some pretty shitty damage throughout the whole battle, really making its HP pool of 630,000 feel way higher. Furthermore, the Vorban will counter every attack with Mortar, doing big damage to the whole party. See, it's stuff like this where things get really challenging. As long as an enemy doesn't have super high agility, single target attacks are not difficult to deal with, but attacks that hit the whole party, now that's where it gets problematic, and that's where things like Auto Phoenix and Auto Life become nearly vital. Unfortunately, I got absolutely bodied on my first attempt, quite literally. So for round 2, I again brought out the Hyper Mighty G. This was of rather limited usefulness however due to Tidus and Riku dying pretty quickly, but Orin was made of harder stuff and so could tank way more damage, maintaining his buffs for longer without going down. Honestly, this fight was a damn grind, and thank God for Auto Phoenix or it'd have been a real problem due to my party members constantly dying from that annoying mortar counter attack, as well as body splash. As cool as the mortar attack animation is, it can get quite tiresome seeing it every single time you hit the damn thing. This whole fight ended up taking me 10 straight minutes, but I did eventually manage to take it down with my main man Orin, and with an overkill no less. Damn, that felt good. And so there we have it, folks. Before fighting these things, I really wasn't sure how much of a challenge it would end up being due to my rather unimpressive stats, but it really wasn't too much trouble at all. It probably took me less than an hour to beat all 13 area creations, and I only died 3 times, so I was pretty happy with that. Of course, I shan't get too cocky, because these monsters are the easiest that the arena has to offer. When I next return to the monster arena, I'll be taking on the species creations, most of which are significantly more difficult than what I fought today, having way more HP, way higher stats, and actually requiring proper strategies. But hey, I'll worry about that later. As always, cheers for watching, and cheerio.